Number 2. What did you leave us with last week? Was it 2 weeks ago? Something along the lines of cautiously optimistic?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the venture's been smoked. It's down like 15% this week.
Yeah, it's been very rough. It's been a very rough 5 or so days for me. Venture, I think today hit 670. We're gonna have to go back to the clip though. I think I did say it would briefly touch below 7. I don't disagree that the venture has more ground to lose. I don't think it's going to be as severe. I don't think we're going to be going into the 600s. If we do, it'll be brief. I think there's maybe another 10% on the venture. Yeah, it's been a rough week. It's been very rough, but I remain cautiously optimistic.
And you shall for the foreseeable future. Meanwhile, the venture's dipping. It's off 4% today. There's one word to describe the markets, and that's bloodbath. When it comes to the venture, everything is getting crushed. Gold stocks are leading.
Not gold stocks, please.
Gold stocks are leading the venture down.
No! Listen.
Gold stocks are leading the venture lower. The GDX, the GXG are getting hammered today. Both of them down more than 4%, I think. Gold is in a dangerous territory. There's support for gold in that 1790 to 1815 range. If it breaks below 18, look out. We could be going to 1650.
This is interesting that you bring this up. So for the last, whatever it's been, 2 years or so since crypto has been in a rather hot market up until about a few months ago, the argument was, is it the new gold? Is Bitcoin the new gold, the digital gold, whatever you want to call it, the hedge against inflation? I think today, when it's the fan, which is what's happening right now, we're in a highly inflationary environment and everything's collapsing in value somehow except the USD. But the one thing I will say, Bitcoin's been obliterated, and gold, relatively speaking, has been very steady. It's insane how well gold is performing compared to Bitcoin during this crisis environment.
To really know the capitulations here, you have to see a spike in volume. You have to see significant increase in volume. It always happens at the bottom. We have not seen that yet.
So yeah, we were witnessing the venture collapse, from 800 and change all the way down to the low 7s on relatively low volume. And I mentioned in the show last time that the concern I had that kind of goes against my thesis was a heavy spike in volume to the downside can crush the venture overnight. And we've seen it. I don't know to what degree on the volume side we've seen this week. I have to look at the numbers. But we've seen the venture lose, I don't know what it is this week, 12, 13, maybe 10 to 13% of its value. I mean, it's absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane.
It's actually
the exchange is down 30% or so in a month.
Yeah, it's actually down 5% today now. It's picked up. The decline has increased since we jumped on.
What's the volume this week? Is it's got to be over 50 million shares.
You know what? You know what's unbelievable? It's not.
See,
it's been low.
What's the volume this week so far?
Monday, May 9th, right? That was the big washout, 6.5%, 49 million shares.
Okay, so an uptick from the previous week though.
It was, but still, yeah. Like, you look at Friday, 28 million. I haven't seen print, and I talked about that 2 weeks ago. I haven't seen prints below 30 million basically since we've been in the business. Yeah. 49 million on Monday, drops to 42 million, 36 million yesterday. We're only, 35 million today. So we're having this is a market crash. The venture's down 5% today. We're only 35 million shares.
Bingo.
Traded.
This is what gives me pause. That is what gives me pause about this entire sell-off, specifically focusing on the TSX Venture. You're trading between 28 and 45 million shares a day, and you're losing 5% of your value on any given day. Last year, at about this time, or Q1 last year, we were trading 100 to 200 million shares a day on the uptick. Now we're trading 35 million or 30 million or 40 million, it doesn't matter, on the downtick. What happens if we have 150 million share trading day on the downtick? That's when the venture can get obliterated.
Surprisingly, the financing data in April bucked the trend. Last month, total financings on the TSX Venture jammed to $971 million.
That is very, very good to hear.
Huge increase from the previous month of 670 million. Now, I have a feeling when May's data comes out in early June, we will see one of the lowest monthly prints in years. Probably
I agree.
Sub 300 million.
Yeah, I agree. And remember, financings are laggards, right? So if a venture company is out there doing a financing or announcing a private placement, closing times is anywhere between 30 and 70 days, right? So those financings that closed in April were probably launched toward the end of February, right?
Yeah.
By and large. So, that was not in the heart of it. That was, those were launching at even before things really started popping off in Ukraine, potentially.
Now, the bigger question, all this is building to a very big question, and that is, does the Fed continue to raise rates, continue to tighten? Because if they do, the NASDAQ, all these these risk stories, including the venture, are going to go down.
Well, so the Fed's it can only go so far, maybe another 1.5% without blowing up the economy. Okay? Yeah. But inflation's not going anywhere until they deal with the supply chain issues. You can't even get baby formula.
I know.
In some groceries, baby formula. Think about that for a second. No, but think about that. You just had a baby a few months ago.
Yeah.
There is no price you would not pay to get some baby formula. That is inflationary. And you're competing to get some baby formula with every other parent who would do anything for their kid.
Yeah.
This is a supply chain inflationary environment. It's caused by supply chain disruption. That has to be, supply chain is more important than interest rates right now for inflation. Period. That has to be dealt with.
We've got thousands of TSX Venture investors who follow us, who read our stuff. What's something we can give them? I mean, what are we looking for right now when we look at deals?
Okay, first and foremost, you should always be looking at things like filing statements, MD&As, quarterly reports, financials, etc. You should never buy any company, let alone a venture stock, without reading this stuff, knowing where their burn goes, how they're spending money, what their salaries look like, this sort of stuff. But on that note, if you are considering buying TSX Venture stocks right now, you need, or holding, or whatever it is, you need to take a look at the company's financials. Many of them just reported. If they're not cutting costs, these companies are clueless. Now, unless they're on the verge of some huge breakthrough and a huge monetization event for the company, which is, at this stage in the economy is hard to consider, this stage in the cycle. But if they're not out there cutting costs, these companies need a wake-up call, and you should question why you own them. If they're not cutting costs, call them, ask them, why aren't you cutting costs? Why aren't you cutting costs right now? Most of these companies are burning cash. They're negative operating cash flow. Okay.
I like to see 18 to 24 months of burn in the treasury.
Yeah, that's ideal for sure. But you're going to have some companies right now, good prospects, great upside potential, that have at their current burn or their burn of 2021 that have 6 months of working capital, 9 months max. Okay. They need to be cutting costs by 50% so they can extend the duration of time between now and their next raise, ideally 12 to 18 months.
And management better be suffering with the investors. I mean, that is obviously rule number one. We always talk about that. Management better have a significant position in the stock. Nothing pisses me off more when I see a CEO making a big salary who's got no skin in the game. Anytime you see that, immediately walk away. Get as far away as you can from a deal like that.
That's a great point you bring up. And it's not just about how much of the company they own. These are startups. So how much of the stock did they pay for? I'm not talking about just compensation packages. How much of their own money are they putting in? And yeah, not all CEOs are millionaires or billionaires or whatever, but they should be putting money in to the deal, particularly in these times. If they believe in the company, look at the insider reports. Are they buying the stock? Because their stock's probably down 50, 60%. At what point do they deem it valuable?
Indeed.
I think that about wraps it up for today. This venture sell-off, the broad market sell-off, it's getting pretty serious. But stay optimistic, stay vigilant, look for opportunities, but also look at your own portfolio and see how the companies that are within them are managing this crisis.
Stay active, stay dialed in. This too shall pass, as they say, but definitely now's the time to stay educated, stay informed, and be nimble out there.